Man, America is so lucky. They're so lucky that I don't work with these people because my pettiness meter is crazy. It's crazy at times. You already see the ticker at the bottom. Joy Taylor got her cheeks clapped for promotions. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Phoenix Prince. But this story caught my eye, and I'm so happy it's getting the coverage that it needs to get, especially on Joy Taylor's end. Now we already know the hairdresser slash stylist is the one that dropped the lawsuit, basically over how things were ran at Fox Sports. Including Charlie Dixon, the vice president, one of the executives at Fox Sports, and citing basically Fox Sports, Charlie Dixon, and Joy Taylor as the main culprits. Now, my eyes went straight to Joy Taylor, which she accuses her of a lot of things, not only just sleeping her way to the top and promoting a toxic culture at the workplace, but also she even, I think, in the paperwork that I'm about to show you, which I did on my live stream. I'll put the link to the live stream at the bottom. She accuses her of also racism. And it's when I saw that, I was like, ooh, forget the Skip Bayless stuff. Because you know what? Believe it or not, that Skip Bayless part, even though Skip Bayless might have said it tongue in cheek, I don't think she's lying. Because I'm so used to Skip Bayless saying some of the wildest stuff I've ever heard in terms of his sports takes. I'm so used to Skip Bayless, like just to win an argument, saying some of the wildest things that I've ever heard in my life. So it's actually not far fetched. But let's focus in on Joy Taylor because people really should be paying attention to this one. Now, in the paperwork, which I'm about to show you right now, let me take this picture off the screen. Okay. In the paperwork, I'm about to show you 2 or 3 sections of it where it focuses on Joy Taylor and how she was running her operation at Fox Sports 1, right? We're going to read a couple sections of the lawsuit filed by the hairstylist, Mrs. Noushin Faraji. I hope I'm saying her name right. Section B, Mr. Dixon, Charlie Dixon. And by the way, actually, before I even show you that, let me just show you. Did the live stream a couple of days ago. Please, I'm going to put the link in the description of my YouTube channel. I did the live stream where I read basically most of the damn paperwork. And I'm obviously not reading the full 42 pages of it, but basically most of it and all of the important stuff, specifically when it comes to Joy Taylor. But I even talk about, Charlie Dixon and Emmanuel Acho, everybody else, Skip Bayless, everybody else in the lawsuit and everything else. But in this particular episode, we are focusing in on Mrs. Joy Taylor, Mrs. Feminazi herself, Mrs. Women Empowerment herself, Mrs. Black Feminist, all that, SJW, Virtue Signaler, all of that. So she's getting all the smoke. I'm giving her all the smoke before she can flip it and say that she's the victim, because that's what's going to happen next. Let's read section B. Mr. Dixon gives Miss Taylor undisputed as a reward for sleeping with him. Okay, so Mr. Dixon is Charlie Dixon, the executive. Right here, this story is going to show how Faraji discovered that Joy Taylor was messing with one of the executives to get her spot. Anyways, reading from the section B. In approximately March 2016, Ms. Faraji met Ms. Taylor, an aspiring sports personality that had recently moved from Miami to Los Angeles for the opportunity of airtime at Fox. Now, red flag already. Any 304 woman moving from Miami to Los Angeles for opportunity for anything, forget just TV, for anything, that girl belongs to the game. And at the time, she was married. So she left her husband. She was somehow able to convince her husband to stay in Miami and let me just stay in Los Angeles by myself for opportunity. Now, I'm going to continue reading from this paragraph. It says, at the time, Ms. Taylor did not have a regular position, but would fill in on a day-by-day basis when talent was sick or otherwise missed time. Ms. Taylor told Ms. Faraji that she was recently wed, but her husband remained in Miami and that she was lonely in Los Angeles. Red flag. Ms. Taylor then befriended Ms. Faraji. Now, Ms. Faraji, obviously, she's the one with the lawsuit here. And like I told you guys in the live stream, if anybody's watching this again, hairdressers and hairstylists, they know all the tea. They know all the tea. So Women tell their hairdressers, their hairstylists, everything. So by proxy, she knows everything. Reading from line 20, it says, in approximately May 2016, Miss Taylor asked Miss Faraji to meet for a drink in Santa Monica. When Miss Faraji arrived, she found Miss Taylor with an older man, Fox Sports Executive Vice President of Content, Mr. Dixon. As Executive Vice President, Mr. Dixon is responsible for overseeing all content and production and on FS1. By the way, the reason why I'm saying that Joy Taylor is most likely going to get a bag is because Mr. Dixon is married himself. So if a lawsuit, like I know, I can see Joy Taylor doing a counter lawsuit to Miss Faraji or whatever, where she's not necessarily going to countersue for Faraji, but she's going to probably sue Fox Sports as well. You know what I mean? I can see her doing that. And Joy Taylor getting a bag. I think Miss Faraji and Joy Taylor are going to get a bag. That's what I believe. You know, even though Miss Faraji is the one that's filing this lawsuit, and she's listing Joy Taylor as one of the defendants. You know, one of the villains in this story. But Joy Taylor's going to still somehow flip it and make herself the victim. Trust me. All right. And since Mr. Dixon is married, he's going to just, okay, how much do you want? Anyways, line 21, it says, when Mr. Dixon went to buy them another round of spicy margaritas, Miss Faraji asked who he was. Miss Taylor responded that he was just a friend. Oh man! Following that night, whenever Miss Faraji would meet with Miss Taylor for drinks or food, Mr. Dixon would either arrive with Miss Taylor or show up later in the night and leave with Miss Taylor. He would always buy rounds of drinks or food. From their body language, Miss Faraji suspected that the pair were sleeping with each other, and although this concerned Miss Faraji, as she knew Miss Taylor was recently married, Miss Faraji kept her opinions to herself, like most hairdressers or hairstylists do. In approximately June 2016, while at work, Miss Faraji noticed Mr. Dixon in the elevator. Surprised by the coincidence, Miss Faraji found Miss Taylor and told her excitedly, the guy who always buys our drinks was in the elevator. Miss Taylor quickly silenced Miss Faraji, explaining who he was. So people are going to act like that, you know, Charlie Dixon was targeting her. No, Joy Taylor was targeting Mr. Dixon. When you notice, because we're going to show you how she even, you know, was messing with Emmanuel Acho. Joy Taylor was specifically targeting specific men with clout or power in the Fox company, people that she knew were marks. So she wasn't just sleeping with just anybody at the company. She was, even though she definitely was, she had the reputation, as Marcellus Wiley and Jason Whitlock ended up telling you guys, but she was specific when she was targeting Mr. Dixon, Acho. She made sure she targeted certain marks so she can get what she wanted, you know, in the deal. Anyways, let's see. Miss Faraji became alarmed and warned Miss Taylor that such a relationship was unsafe. Miss Taylor told her not to worry about it. Miss Faraji continued to be friends with Miss Taylor, but tried to distance herself as she considered the situation dangerous, as well as morally wrong, as Miss Taylor and Mr. Dixon were both married. And I keep telling you, in a lot of these, with the cheating and when it comes to workplace relationships, is, I will say a lot of the times, I'm not going to say most times, but in many cases, it is most times. It's usually the married folk doing all the sleeping around. You know, and I'm gonna just leave it at that when it comes to these workplace relationships. Anyways, line 23, in approximately July 2016, word spread amongst Fox employees about a new show that was going to be a big deal, as it would star Mr. Bayless, Skip Bayless, and Shannon Sharp. It was known that Fox was looking for a woman with significant TV experience to also star. Therefore, it came as a surprise when Fox announced that Miss Taylor, who was a bartender and radio host in Miami with very little TV experience, would be the moderator of the new show, a sports debate program. Skip and Shannon on Undisputed. Mr. Bayless later disclosed to Miss Faraji that he did not want Miss Taylor on the show, but Mr. Dixon was adamant that Miss Taylor should star. At first, Mr. Dixon arranged a dinner between Skip and Joy, where she arrived in provocative clothing and acted in a provocative manner. So this is when we talk about Miss Feminist herself, right? Specifically when we talk about Joy Taylor. When I'm showing you these pics right here, I kid you not, when she was on Undisputed or Colin Cowherd show, every other day, if not every episode, she always would dress like this. She would always dress in some kind of clothing that would expose her goods. Like, when I'm showing you these pics, I'm not exaggerating. I would watch Undisputed literally every day, and by proxy, watching Colin Cowherd's show every other day, but especially Undisputed. I've been watching Undisputed damn near every day, every week since it came out, right, in 2016. Now, obviously, Joy Taylor wasn't the moderator for the duration of it, but when she was there at first, and then when she moved on to Colin Cowherd's show, and then got her show, she would always dress like this every single time. Every single time. I'm like, she would most likely, you would find her dressed up like this. No cap. But anyways, back to the paperwork. So it's no exaggeration right there. So with that line, it shows that Taylor was even willing to get it down with Skip Bayless if given the opportunity. So right here it says, when that did not change Skip's opinion of Miss Taylor, Mr. Dixon asked him to approve of her as a favor to him reluctantly. Skip agreed to do so as a favor to his friend, which means he probably got threatened by Charlie Dixon about, he probably had dirt on Skip, and Skip's like, fine. And by the way, when we talk about women sleeping their way to the top, this is part of it, or when we're gonna, once we get later on into the paperwork, we're going to talk about false allegations and how that happens. This is why women target certain men to sleep with. So if she sleeps with a certain person and if she doesn't get her way, then boom, false allegation. It's a threat to false allegation. They'll threaten to expose him and make him seem like a predator. So this is the playbook. So right here, and we're going to get to that later on. And we've been talking about that on our channel for a while, but people act like we making this up when we say stuff like this. Around 2016, Ms. Faraji attended a dinner with Ms. Taylor and her husband and Mr. Dixon and his wife. During the dinner, Joy's husband became suspicious that, I'll just keep saying Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor's husband became suspicious that Ms. Taylor and Mr. Dixon were having a sexual relationship. Soon after the dinner, Ms. Taylor's husband found evidence of the inappropriate relationship and divorced Ms. Taylor. In approximately September 2016, Undisputed started. Ms. Taylor requested Ms. Faraji do her hair and blah, blah, blah. She wanted only her to do her hair. And Skip wanted Ms. Faraji to also do his hair. Good. But I remember during that time when she did, because nobody really knew who Joy was. And they're like, how did she get the show? And then I looked at her, and then I looked at her belongings, and I was like, well, I can name 2 reasons why she got the show. Right? But then when you mention the obvious, they're gonna act like it's not that. I'm like, what else could it be? Yes, I know she's related to a Hall of Fame kicker in the NFL, but it takes more than that to get into a show like that, and you're a novice. She's clearly messing with somebody with some connections. That's how it usually works. But when we say that, when you put 2 and 2 together, it's like, okay. And then I'm like, and on top of that, when you look at the evidence, I remember saying this at this time in 2016. Like, I remember like, well, don't you find it odd at the same time she divorces her husband around the same time she gets the show? There can only be one reason why that happened. But people don't want to say the obvious, right? People don't want to say the obvious. So I want to get to this next section because I want to highlight the 3 specific sections in this lawsuit, which puts Miss Taylor in an interesting light. Right here, if you read section C, I'm going to sum it up for you. They were at a birthday bash, an industry birthday bash. So when you go into these industry birthday bashes or parties, whatever, the people that are, it's not a voluntary request. It's you have to go. In this section, Miss Faraji said that Mr. Dixon groped her, right? And when she told Miss Taylor, aka Joy Taylor, she told her to get over it. You see it right here. Line 29, it says, Miss Faraji did not know who to turn to, but as soon as she knew Miss Taylor was sleeping with Mr. Dixon, she turned to her. Surprisingly, Miss Taylor responded to get over it and explained that she herself only had her job because of Mr. Dixon and Miss Faraji only had her job because Miss Taylor requested her. She warned that Mr. Dixon could take both away. She turned into Hattie McDaniels real quick. You gonna get us in troubles. You gonna get me in trouble with Massa. Massa give me a good bed. We eat good here at Fox Sports. You get from here from this foolishness. You hear me? You gonna get me in troubles. Joy Taylor turned into a slave real quick. And by the way, I made this point in the live stream. These actresses like Hattie McDaniels and those roles that they kind of had to play, that that role, you know what I mean? That elderly black woman, maid role, like they had to play that role. And people, black people give them a lot of, grief for quote unquote cooning, but I'm like, they had no choice really. They had to do that or like starve. This is the year 2024 and we still got black people doing this. Oh, this is a shame. This is a shame. This is a shame. So here you have Joy Taylor sleeping her way to the top, and then when the person that she's sleeping with is being a predator to her hairdresser or her so-called friend, she told her to get over it. Doesn't that make her what we call her a victim blamer? Doesn't that make her a victim blamer? Anyways, ain't that something? But anyways, I want to go specifically to section I. Yes, we're not going to talk about Skip here. We're going to focus on Joy Taylor. We're gonna focus in on Joy Taylor, and we're not gonna even mention the racism and all this stuff. So right here, I want you to pay attention to section I. Miss Taylor again uses her sexuality to get on a show. In approximately February 2020, Miss Taylor asked Miss Faraji to meet her for lunch in Beverly Hills. When Miss Faraji arrived, she found Miss Taylor with a man, Emmanuel Acho, Mr. Acho. Miss Faraji did not know Mr. Acho, but could tell that the two were romantically involved. A few months after meeting Mr. Acho at the lunch, Miss Faraji noticed him in the hallway while at work. Miss Faraji later asked Miss Taylor if Mr. Acho also worked at Fox. Miss Taylor confirmed and explained that she wanted Mr. Acho to eventually recommend her on the show Speak for Yourself. Miss Faraji became alarmed and warned Miss Taylor that she should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time, as Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. Miss Taylor told her not to worry about it. Watch this right here. Watch this. Watch this. She explained that let me highlight this part. Let me highlight this. I know I'm being annoying with this, but let me highlight this part right here. Okay? Because you're going to see earlier in the lawsuit that Miss Faraji basically said like there's a lot of women talent that would come in and out of Fox Sports because basically if you refuse to sleep with Mr. Dixon, he would make sure you wouldn't be successful with your show. So eventually you wouldn't get the same type of promotion as you did if you were sleeping with him. You know what I mean? So right here, Miss Taylor told her not to worry about it. She explained that she was also now powerful, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. So, in other words, in case of emergency, if Mr. Dixon was going to think about letting her go, she pre-planned to Me Too him. And what's funny about this is I remember seeing this on Twitter, this specific section on Twitter. And when that got exposed, people were like, nah, she has to be lying. She has to be lying. There's no way she's that diabolical. Yeah. That didn't surprise me at all. But, it's still shocking for many people that why would she even do that? But this is the strategy of most. And I keep trying to tell you guys, especially I'm saying after the year 2026, post the World Cup in the United States, it's going to be a slew of just accusations. Why do you think they keep trying to change the definition of consent? And if I didn't consent this night, but tomorrow, like if I consented last night, but not tomorrow night, retroactive consent. They try to change the definition of SA every single time. So it gives women a way out when they regret something or if things don't go their way. So it's going to be a slew of accusations because there's going to be a lot of women. I'm talking about there's going to be a lot of women broke. There's going to be a lot of women that didn't really, do much in their 20s that have nothing to show for it. There's a lot of women that's out here messing with older men for money. And once they get replaced, I'm talking about it's gonna be a lot of dudes being put out on Front Street talking about, oh, he took advantage of me, but really it's just a former sugar baby or a former woman that was trying to sleep her way up that didn't get her way. So it's gonna be a lot more cases like that. And these things are premeditated. These things are premeditated. This is why I try to tell dudes, especially dudes with means, please be careful. Stop messing with the help at work. You're gonna be put on blast eventually. So these are the things that this is what this channel really is for. We have to we got to save y'all. But anyways, before I leave, y'all should be so happy that I don't work with these people, man. Look at Emmanuel Acho cheesing in that picture. Yo, you know what? Emmanuel Acho should be lucky I don't work for the facility, because if I work with Emmanuel Acho, I'd have come in there and I'll be singing this. I love you. Mm, is it all the same? Emmanuel Acho gonna be like, "What, Ninja? What you singing? What song is that?" And I'm gonna be like, "Y'all never heard of that song, Party Next Door? The song is called Joy." Y'all ain't never heard of that song, but that's a good song, Joy. And then everybody's gonna be laughing. I'm just gonna finish it off. Just gonna be like, mm, mm, I wanna feel joy. That's how the song goes. I wanna feel joy, baby. I would be trolling Emmanuel Acho, and people were wondering, like, man, how Acho get to hit this lame ass ninja? I'm like, y'all don't get it. Joy targeted him. Like Emmanuel Acho and Dixon, they're marks. Those are marks. People are like, why is she messing with these weird looking ninja? They're marks. She targeted them for her own personal gain. And she told the hairstylist what her plan was. And people were like, why would she tell her hairstylist this? Guys, women tell their hairstylists everything. Damn near everything. This is why the lawsuit from Miss Faraji piqued my interest. This might be the first time on this channel where a woman drops a lawsuit and I take it seriously. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's the first time I read one, but like this is the first time where I'm like, this might have some facts to it, because she was very specific when you read the paperwork. She wasn't saying all men. She was just saying this man and this man, but this man didn't do this. You know what I mean? She didn't paint all men in a bad light, and she made sure she put Joy Taylor on blast, like she had a personal grudge. And you can tell it is personal, because that relationship between a hairdresser and her female client, or just a woman in her hairdresser, is sacred. I know that, but if you actually read the paperwork, you'll actually see why Miss Faraji and Joy Taylor fell out. So, shout out to everybody, and thank you, Miss Faraji, for proving me and many others right. And now a lot of the female hosts or female co-hosts that be on these sports shows now is going to paint that. People are now going to start to look at them in a different light. People are like, wait a minute, it can't be just Joy. Exactly. So this is the unfortunate consequences that come with Joy Taylor being put out on Front Street like this. Now, I do wonder how Joy Taylor is going to flip this to make herself the victim. I am very curious on how that's going to work.